Hey everybody, welcome to another tier list. I just finished watching all of James Cameron's movies, and I wanted to make a tier list to see how they stack up against each other. Now, a couple of notes before we begin. I am not putting any of his documentary-style movies in here. I'm also placing these rankings based on the overall James Cameron's movies, not necessarily all movies ever made, but James Cameron does make good movies, so if a movie makes S tier, it's probably a good movie. With that out of the way, we're starting with his first movie, which is not Terminator 1 like I thought it was, but it's actually a movie called Piranha 2: The Spawning. Now, if you've never seen or heard of this movie, I do not blame you. It is a very cheesy horror movie where a bunch of flying piranhas kill a bunch of people on a beach, and the fact that James Cameron even directed this is crazy to me. This is his first gig, so maybe he was just trying to get his feet wet, literally, but there is nothing in this movie that screams this was made by James Cameron. The acting's pretty bad, the writing's really bad, the camera work is passable at best, and honestly, the only thing this has going for it is that it does lean into the cheese factor, and I bet the only reason James Cameron said yes to directing this movie is because there's quite a few underwater scenes, and you know the man likes his underwater scenes. But his first movie is going to firmly land in the dog shit category. Even though it does lean into the cheese, it is a very bad movie with very bad acting, writing, and directing. It's fun if you have a couple beers, but otherwise it's a terrible movie. Now moving on to his first actually good movie, The Terminator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1984. James Cameron's big break and one of his best movies to this date. The first Terminator has great action, great acting. Somehow Arnold Schwarzenegger pulls it together and is perfectly casted in this movie. And the supporting cast is great. Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese is awesome, but the standout role, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, one of the best female leads in any series pretty much ever. Truly a great movie, truly a classic, and everybody still to this day talks about how Skynet's going to take over the world and AI, and it's just more relatable than ever. But there are a few things that don't hold up. Obviously the scene where he's changing his eye looks terrible, and some of the action, while it is good for the 80s, it isn't quite good for modern times. I'm still going to give Terminator 1 an A. It's a great movie, still worth watching to this day. Now his next movie, Aliens, made in 1986, I have a soft spot for, personally. I've seen this movie maybe 10 times, maybe more. This is a classic when I was growing up as a kid. I first saw this movie when I was like 11 years old. It's been great ever since. It might have only gotten better. Once again, he has a female lead that is amazing, Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. This is the first movie where there's like a squad of different characters. They all have their own little quirks. He's really good at directing a team of characters. Plus, the action is incredible. Most of the visual effects hold up today. All the set pieces are great. The ending scene with the Queen is iconic, and this film firmly deserves an S ranking. Now, the next movie, The Abyss, made in 1989, is probably James Cameron's favorite movie, even if he's never officially said it is. If you're gonna ask me, I would say this is one or two of the films that he takes pride in. It has everything you think of when you think of a James Cameron movie. It has a ton of underwater scenes. It's got a squad of kooky characters that all have their own personalities. And it has aliens. Kind of a little spoiler there, but of course there's aliens in The Abyss. Now, how is the actual movie? Overall, it's pretty dang good. I do think it is much slower than his other movies. And while I was interested during most of it, I don't think there's any real rewatch value for this film. And if I'm being really honest, while the story is good, it's really not that deep. It's kind of a generic alien story, just told underwater. All that being said, it's still a very well-made movie, and I'm going to put it in B. Now moving on to what is probably his best movie if you ask me personally, Terminator 2: Judgment Day. It just does everything better than the first film. All the CGI still holds up today. The action is some of the best action ever put on camera. Arnold Schwarzenegger is still great, Linda Hamilton is still great, and Edward Furlong playing John Connor is one of the best kid actors ever put on screen. And not only that, but the story goes one extra level. It actually starts to ask a couple philosophical questions, and personally I'm going to put it right up with Aliens. S tier movie by James Cameron. Now moving on to True Lies, made in 1994. I saw this movie for the first time about a week ago, and I gotta say, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. When I watched this movie, it made me think, man, James Cameron can really direct anything. He can direct horror, he can direct action, and in this movie, he can direct comedy. There's some genuinely good comedic moments in here. The film does still focus on the action parts of it. The comedy is kind of taking a back seat. but I was genuinely surprised by how well Arnold Schwarzenegger acted in here, and I think Jamie Lee Curtis is a great co-star in the movie. But this movie also doesn't really do anything special per se. It's pretty generic action comedy, and I have no reason to ever really watch it again, but it was still well made, and I'm going to put it with B. Now moving on to one of his biggest movies ever made, The Titanic, 1997. Truly a classic. I see this movie being played for years on end. It was one of the highest grossing movies ever made. I believe it's number 3. All the stories, from the set being huge to the amount of water they used on set, just to the sheer scale of the film, is actually impressive. But what do I think of the actual movie? I think it's fine. It's not bad by any means. I've never really been one to enjoy a love story, at least not the traditional love story. And while yes, Leonardo DiCaprio is great, along with his co-star Kate Winslet, I understand why people think this is a classic. I understand why some people call it a masterpiece. And I did enjoy the last hour of the film when the Titanic is actually starting to sink. There's a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and the set piece moments are great. But overall, it's just kinda not really my movie. I prefer some of his other movies, but I'm still gonna put Titanic at B. And then it took him a whole 11 years to follow that up with Avatar, the current highest grossing movie of all time. The first Avatar movie is somewhat controversial, because while yes, visually it's incredible, I think the world building is also incredible. Pandora is a fully realized world, along with these humans integrating into the Na'vi avatars, the science behind it, all of that's very interesting. But when you really look at the actual story, like these characters go through, it's not anything spectacular. It's not very deep. And while yes, the acting is good and the writing is good, I don't think the film is as good or deserves to be the highest grossing movie ever. So I'm also gonna put Avatar at a B. It's not an average movie, but it's not a great movie either. So I said The First Abyss was probably one of his favorite movies to make. I personally think Avatar 2 was probably another movie that he loved to make. Everything he learned from the first Avatar he improved upon, and there's a bunch more water now. James Cameron loves his underwater scenes, just anything to have to do with water. He loves it. I think this is a much better Avatar movie. It has some more family elements. While it's still not really a deep film, I do like the different character interactions and the few extra layers that are introduced in this film. I think the water effects look amazing. I think somehow the visual effects look even better than the first one. The action is great. And honestly, I think it's a pretty big improvement over the first film. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but I do genuinely enjoy Avatar: The Way of the Water. And we're gonna give that an A. So overall, my sentiment with James Cameron is he is a great director. He knows how to direct his actors, his camera. He knows how to make action scenes look good, but he almost rarely never goes that extra step to become one of the best directors out there. Obviously, he has some of the films that have made more money than any other film ever made, but I don't think that means that they're a great movie. I think it just has a broad appeal, like Avatar, Titanic. Like, none of his movies are really that deep. None of his movies really require a second watch to get the whole story. And while yes, they're all well written and all well acted, I don't think people are going to be talking about most of these films in the future. With that being said, there's a few of them I obviously love, and I think Aliens in particular is going to be on one of my all-time favorite movies ever. And at the end of the day, he didn't really make any bad movies except Piranha, and I don't even blame him for it. But what do you think? Would you change any of these positions in the movies? Do you like James Cameron as a director? So whatever you think, let me know down below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to. See you next time.